I stood at the head of the conference table presenting our record profits, when my mother interrupted, smiling sweetly. Your brother will take over now. My 10 years of 80-hour weeks growing her failing business into a $75 million company suddenly meaningless. The numbers don't lie. That's what I've always loved about business. At the end of the day, success can be measured in clean, undeniable figures. And today's figures tell a story that even my mother can't dismiss. $75 million in revenue, 40% market growth, and expansion into 3 new territories. I stand in the corporate boardroom, my presentation reflecting off the polished table as board members nod approvingly. 12 years of work displayed in perfect PowerPoint slides, each graph trending upward, each milestone meticulously documented. My brother Ethan slouches in his chair near the back, barely glancing up from his phone. He's never been interested in quarterly reports, or any aspect of the business, really. Exceptional work, Lisa, Mr. Davidson, our longest-serving board member, says. Your father would have been proud to see how you've transformed his legacy. My mother shifts slightly in her chair at the head of the table. She's never liked being reminded that it was Dad who first believed in me, who taught me the business before his heart attack 12 years ago, back when Harrison Enterprises was just a struggling local operation barely making payroll. Yes, well, she says, her smile not quite reaching her eyes. We're certainly pleased with the progress. We. As if she hadn't fought me on every innovation, every expansion, every change that took us from regional player to industry leader. As if she hadn't reminded me at every turn that I was just holding things together until Ethan found his path. The board meeting concludes, and we head to Le Jardin for what's supposed to be a celebration dinner. Mother insisted on it, which should have been my first warning. She only chooses this restaurant when she has an audience in mind. To Harrison Enterprises, she raises her crystal wine glass, every inch the elegant CEO's widow. And to New Beginnings. New Beginnings. Something in her tone makes my hand pause halfway to my lips. Speaking of new beginnings, she continues, that same practiced smile in place. I think it's time we discuss the future of the company. Around the private dining room, conversations quiet. My Uncle Richard suddenly becomes very interested in his seafood risotto. Aunt Margaret fiddles with her pearls, a sure sign she already knows what's coming. Ethan, Mother turns to my brother, who actually puts down his phone for once. I think you're finally ready to take your rightful place. The wine turns sour in my mouth as understanding dawns. Ethan sits up straighter, a slow grin spreading across his face. Your sister has done an admirable job preparing everything for you, Mother continues, as if she's discussing something as simple as a holiday handover. But it's time for proper leadership, male leadership. The words hit like physical blows. 12 years of 60-hour weeks, of missed vacations and canceled dates, of turning a failing business into an empire, all reduced to admirable job and preparing. I'm sorry, I say, my voice steady, despite the rage building in my chest. Could you clarify what you mean by proper leadership? Mother's smile doesn't waver. Well, darling, you must have known this was temporary. Ethan is the firstborn, the son. It's his birthright. Birthright? The word tastes like ash. What exactly has he done to earn this birthright? Now, Lisa, Uncle Richard finally speaks up, ever the peacekeeper. Your brother has been finding himself? I can't help but laugh. Is that what we're calling 3 failed startups and a yacht club membership? Hey, Ethan protests. Those ventures were valuable learning experiences. Experiences I paid for, I remind him. With the profits from this company, the company I saved. That's enough. Mother's voice turns sharp. This isn't up for discussion. The decision has been made. Ethan will assume the CEO position next month. You'll have time to bring him up to speed on everything. I look around the table at my family, at the aunt who taught me to read financial statements, at the uncle who helped me secure my first major client, at the cousins who've worked under me, grown with me, succeeded with me. None of them will meet my eyes. The perfect family dinner continues around me. Wine is poured, dessert is served. Plans are discussed as if my entire world hasn't just been upended, as if 12 years of my life haven't just been dismissed as a temporary arrangement. I maintain my composure, smile at the right moments, even congratulate Ethan when he starts talking about his vision for the future. But inside, something has shifted. Something has hardened. They think I'm just going to step aside, hand over everything I've built to a man who couldn't even build a successful dog walking app. I take a slow sip of wine, letting the expensive vintage settle on my tongue. Mother's still talking, laying out her plans for the smooth transition. But I'm not listening anymore. I'm thinking about all the things she doesn't know, about the contracts she never read carefully, about the clients whose loyalty she takes for granted, about the power she foolishly believes belongs to the family name rather than the person who rebuilt it. They want proper leadership? Time to show them exactly what that looks like. The office feels different at 3 a.m, quieter, cleaner, more honest somehow. The city sparkles beyond the floor-to-ceiling windows, but I'm focused on my computer screen, diving deep into 12 years of company history. Mother always said I was too meticulous, too obsessed with details. Tonight, that obsession is going to pay off. I pull up the company's financial records from before I took over. The truth is there in black and white, stark against the white background. Harrison Enterprises was 3 months from bankruptcy when Dad died. Mother's traditional business methods had nearly destroyed everything he built. And then there was Ethan's contribution, or rather, his drain on resources. I open a folder labeled EH Ventures and start scrolling. There it is. Every failed startup, every investment opportunity, every disaster I quietly cleaned up while building the company. $200,000 to the automated dog walking service that never launched. $500,000 to the revolutionary social media platform that attracted exactly 12 users. $750,000 to the cryptocurrency venture that disappeared overnight. All of it covered by company funds. All of it buried in careful accounting that I handled personally to protect the family name. To protect him. "You're here late." I don't startle at the voice. Janet, our head of accounting, stands in my doorway. She's been with the company since Dad's time, saw everything I did to save it. "Just doing some research," I say, gesturing to the screen. "Want to see something interesting?" She walks over, peers at the documents I've pulled up. Her eyes widen slightly. "Is that the real numbers from Ethan's ventures?" "Yes." I click through more files. "And here's something even better. Look at the succession planning documents Mother's been working on." Janet leans closer, then lets out a low whistle. She's been planning this for months, these dates. She started the paperwork right after we hit the 75 million mark. Of course she did. I lean back in my chair. Because that's when we became valuable enough for Ethan to want to take over. I pull up another document, this one from 6 months ago. An email chain between Mother and the board members, the ones who nodded so approvingly at my presentation today. They've been discussing the transition for months, planning how to hand over my work to my brother while keeping me in line. "Did they really think you wouldn't find this?" Janet asks, shaking her head. "They never thought I'd look." I start downloading files to a secure drive. "They assumed I'd just accept it, like I've accepted everything else. The perfect daughter, always putting family first." My phone buzzes. Ethan, probably still celebrating at some overpriced bar. I ignore it, focusing instead on the contract archives. Every major deal I've closed, every partnership I've built, every innovation I've implemented. Mother never read the fine print. She trusted me to handle the boring details, while she played corporate figurehead. "Janet," I say slowly, "who actually signed the Miller contract last year?" She thinks for a moment. "You did. Your mother was in Aspen that week. Said she trusted you to handle it." I smile, pulling up the document. "Yes, she did. Just like she trusted me to handle the Peterson deal, the Thompson merger, and the Asian expansion." I highlight specific clauses in each contract. "Notice anything interesting about these terms?" Janet reads carefully, then looks at me with new understanding. "The contracts are with you personally, not just with Harrison Enterprises, but with you as the key executor." Mother always said attention to detail was important. I continue downloading files. I wonder if she'll appreciate just how much attention I've been paying. A notification pops up on my screen. An email from Mother, probably about tomorrow's transition meeting. Instead of opening it, I pull up the company's client list. Every major account I've landed, every relationship I've cultivated, All those lunches, late-night calls, personal touches that mother dismissed as unnecessary hand-holding. "What are you going to do?" Janet asks quietly. I close my laptop, gathering the evidence of 12 years of underestimation into one neat package. I'm going to teach them the difference between inheritance and earning. Standing at my office window, I watch the sun begin to rise over the city. In a few hours, Mother will stride in, ready to begin Ethan's training. She'll expect me to smile, to cooperate, to be the good daughter one last time. But she forgot something crucial, something Dad taught me long before the business lessons started. Power doesn't come from a title or a birthright. It comes from knowing exactly what you're worth and being willing to prove it. I turn back to my desk, to the evidence I've gathered, to the leverage I've built without them ever noticing. They think tomorrow is about transitioning power. They're right about that part, at least. Just not about which direction that power is going to flow. Marcus Chen's corner office at Chen & Associates looks nothing like the carefully curated elegance of Harrison Enterprises. No family portraits on the walls, no inherited antiques, just clean lines and stark efficiency. It's exactly why I chose him. The city's top corporate lawyer has never been impressed by family names. "Well," he says, spreading the documents across his desk, "your mother certainly never bothered to read the fine print, did she?" His smile is sharp, appreciative. "But you did. Very thoroughly." I sit perfectly straight in the leather chair, my posture perfect. One of Mother's endless lessons that actually proved useful. I learned early that details matter. Indeed, he holds up the Miller contract, these personal service clauses. "You embedded them in every major deal for the past 5 years?" "Every single one." I allow myself a small smile. Mother was always too busy with the big picture to bother with contract details. And Ethan? Well, Ethan can barely read a menu, let alone a legal document. Marcus leans back, studying me with new appreciation. "So if you leave, 80% of our major clients can walk away without penalty." I smooth my skirt, a gesture of practiced calm. "And they will. I've spent years building those relationships, while Mother played golf and Ethan played entrepreneur." He picks up another document. "And these innovation patents?" "All in my name. Personal intellectual property, not company assets." Mother thought I was being thorough when I insisted on proper documentation. She never asked why. "Because she never thought you'd use it against them." Marcus shakes his head, amused. "They really have no idea what's coming, do they?" "They never bothered to look closely enough to see it." I stand, walking to his window. The Harrison Enterprises building is visible from here, its logo gleaming in the morning sun. They saw what they wanted to see: the dutiful daughter, the reliable caretaker, the temporary solution until the prodigal son was ready. And now I turn back to face him. Now they're going to see exactly what they've overlooked. Marcus starts organizing the documents into distinct piles. "You have everything you need for a complete takeover: the client relationships, the intellectual property, the proof of Ethan's financial disasters." He pauses, holding up a particular file. "And this evidence of your mother's creative accounting during the transition from your father, that's particularly interesting." I thought so too. I sit back down, especially since it involves several board members who've been so eager to support Ethan's promotion. "They won't be eager once this comes to light." He starts making notes. "The question is, what's your endgame here? Do you want control? A buyout? Revenge?" I consider the question, thinking of all the family dinners where my achievements were minimized, all the board meetings where my ideas were questioned, all the years of proving myself over and over only to be handed over like an interim caretaker. "I want what I've earned," I say finally. Every innovation they dismissed, every success they diminished, every bit of growth they attributed to the family name rather than my work. I want it all officially recognized, and I want them to know exactly who's taking it from them. Marcus studies me for a long moment, then nods. "The shareholders' meeting is next week. Your mother plans to announce Ethan's appointment then?" "Yes, she's invited all the major players. It's supposed to be her crowning achievement, passing the company to its rightful heir." "Perfect," he starts typing on his laptop. "We'll have everything ready, but Lisa?" He looks up at me, his expression serious. Once we start this, there's no going back. Your relationship with your family, your place in their world, it all changes. I think about yesterday's dinner, about Mother's dismissive tone, about Ethan's entitled smirk, about 12 years of being the good daughter, the reliable sister, the perfect family member who would eventually step aside. My relationship with them changed the moment they decided I was disposable, I say quietly. They just don't know it yet. I gather my coat, preparing to head back to the office where Mother is probably already planning Ethan's new business cards. One more thing, I add, pulling out my phone. I need you to prepare documents for a new holding company, something separate from Harrison Enterprises. Forward thinking, he approves. What do you want to call it? I smile, thinking of all the times Mother insisted I use the Harrison name to open doors, make connections, build relationships. Let's call it Phoenix Industries. Rising from the ashes. He raises an eyebrow. Bit obvious, isn't it? No, I correct him. Rising above. There's a difference. As I walk back to the office, my heels clicking against the pavement with practiced precision, I feel lighter somehow, freer. Mother always said image was everything. The right clothes, the right posture, the right impression. Tomorrow, I'll give her exactly what she taught me to be. Perfect, polished, flawless in every detail. Right up until the moment I take everything she values away from her. The Harrison Enterprises boardroom gleams with polished perfection, just like everything else in Mother's world. Floor-to-ceiling windows offer a stunning view of the city, while the massive mahogany table reflects the morning light. Every seat is filled, board members, major shareholders, and of course, our extended family, all gathered for what Mother believes will be her moment of triumph. Ethan sits at the head of the table, my seat until today, trying to project authority in his newly purchased Tom Ford suit. He's been practicing his executive posture all morning, but his hands keep fidgeting with his tie. Mother stands beside him, beaming with pride as she prepares to announce the new era of Harrison leadership. I sit quietly in my usual spot, half hidden behind my laptop, playing my assigned role of dutiful note-taker. Mr. Davidson keeps glancing at me, concern evident in his expression. He's worked with me long enough to know when something's brewing. Ladies and gentlemen, Mother begins, her voice carrying that perfect mix of authority and warmth she's spent years perfecting. Today marks a pivotal moment for Harrison Enterprises. As we reach new heights of success, it's time for fresh leadership to take us into the future. I watch the faces around the table. The board members who nodded along with her plan, the shareholders who never questioned her decisions, the family members who always accepted her version of reality. My son Ethan, she continues, placing a hand on his shoulder, will be assuming the role of CEO, continuing our family's legacy of excellence. Ethan stands, adjusting his tie one last time. Thank you, Mother. I'm excited to share my vision for the company's future. Actually, I interrupt, my voice carrying clearly across the room. Before we continue, I think we should review some relevant information. Mother's smile tightens slightly. Lisa, dear, we can handle the details later. Can we? I close my laptop slowly, deliberately, because I think the board might be interested in seeing exactly what kind of fresh leadership they're getting. Marcus begins distributing folders to everyone at the table. Mother's face darkens as she recognizes his firm's letterhead. What is this? She demands. Just some light reading, I reply smoothly. Financial records, contract details, patent registrations. Oh, and a particularly interesting section about Ethan's previous business ventures. Page 3 is especially enlightening. The room fills with the sound of rustling papers and sharp intakes of breath. Mr. Davidson, our longest-serving board member, looks up from his folder, face pale. These numbers, this can't be accurate. Every figure is verified, I confirm. $2 million in losses from Ethan's failed startups, all quietly covered by company funds. Would you like to explain that creative accounting, Mother? She steps forward, anger replacing her practiced smile. You're out of line. No, I cut her off. I'm finally stepping into line, my line. I turn to address the board directly. For 12 years, I've built this company while my brother burned through resources and my mother covered his failures. Now they want to hand him control of everything I've created. This is ridiculous, Ethan stammers. But I can see the panic in his eyes as shareholders begin murmuring over his documented failures. Is it? I click through to the next presentation slide. Let's talk about the client contracts, the ones Mother never bothered to read carefully. I highlight specific clauses. Every major account we have is contractually tied to my personal oversight. If I leave, they can walk away without penalty. The murmuring grows louder. Mother's perfectly manicured hands clench into fists. You wouldn't dare, she hisses. Wouldn't I? I pull up another document. Here's something interesting. Emails from our top 5 clients, all received this morning. They're very concerned about the leadership change. Very concerned indeed. Mr. Peterson, our biggest client, leans forward. Mrs. Harrison, is this true? These innovation patents are all in my name, I finish for him. Every breakthrough, every development, every piece of intellectual property that's driven our growth for the past 5 years. They belong to me, not Harrison Enterprises. The room erupts in confused discussions. Board members frantically flip through documents. Legal counsel is summoned, and Mother looks like her perfect world is crumbling before her eyes. You ungrateful little, she starts, but I cut her off. Ungrateful, I laugh softly. I turned your failing company into a $75 million enterprise. I covered Ethan's mistakes, protected your reputation, built everything you're now trying to hand over to someone who can barely read a profit and loss statement. Ethan slumps in what was briefly his chair, his executive posture forgotten. But I'm the heir. The son. The heir to what? I ask, turning to face the board. Ladies and gentlemen, you have a choice to make. You can support this transition and watch your investments walk out the door with me. Or, I pause, letting the tension build. We can discuss a different kind of leadership change. Mother steps forward, desperation replacing anger. Lisa, please, we can talk about this. We're done talking. I straighten my shoulders, channeling every lesson she ever taught me about authority. I've spent 12 years proving myself, building this company, earning my place. And now? I smile, thinking of all the times she told me image was everything. Now I'm going to show you exactly what real leadership looks like. The morning sun catches the Harrison Enterprises logo on the wall, casting long shadows across the boardroom. In the harsh light, I can see every crack in Mother's perfect facade, every tremor in Ethan's hands, every moment of realization as they finally understand what they've done. This isn't just a transition of power. This is a reckoning. The next 48 hours unfold like a perfectly choreographed dance, each move calculated, each consequence precisely as planned. I sit in my office, still my office, despite Mother's attempted coup, watching the Harrison empire crumble and rebuild itself, piece by careful piece. My phone hasn't stopped buzzing since the board meeting. Emails, texts, calls from journalists, all wanting to know more about the Harrison Enterprises leadership crisis. I ignore them all. Let them speculate. The truth is far more satisfying than their theories. The first domino falls at exactly 9 a.m. when Miller Industries announces they're reviewing their contract with Harrison Enterprises. By 9:30, 3 more major clients have followed suit. My phone lights up with a text from Mother, the first direct communication since the board meeting. What have you done? I smile, thinking of all the times she dismissed my client relationships as unnecessary hand-holding. I type back a single word, waiting. She calls immediately. I let it ring twice before answering, keeping my voice professional, controlled. Yes, Mother. Stop this, she hisses. You're destroying everything we've built. Everything I built, I correct her. You just took the credit. There's a difference. What do you want? Her voice cracks slightly. Name your price. I lean back in my chair, savoring the moment. Oh, Mother, you still think this is a negotiation. That's your third mistake. Before she can respond, my other line beeps. It's Mr. Peterson. I switch calls, leaving her hanging. Miss Harrison, Peterson's voice is grave. I've reviewed everything. The innovations, the strategies, the growth projections. This was all your work, wasn't it? Every bit of it, I confirm. There's a long pause. We signed with Harrison Enterprises because of you, because of your vision. If you're leaving... Who says I'm leaving? I keep my tone light. I think it's time Harrison Enterprises had new leadership, don't you? By noon, the news has spread through the industry. Harrison Enterprises stock starts to fluctuate as more clients express concerns. Marcus sends me updates from his sources inside the company. Mother is in full panic mode, trying desperately to contain the damage. Aunt Margaret tries next. She shows up at my office unannounced, perfectly coiffed as always, but I can see the strain around her eyes. Lisa, darling, she attempts her usual placating smile. We need to talk about this unfortunate situation. I gesture to a chair, watching her take in the boxes on my desk. Not packed for leaving, but reorganizing, taking control. Yes, we do. Would you like to start with how you knew about Mother's plans, or shall we discuss the board's complicity first? She freezes. I don't know what you mean. No. I retrieve a folder from my desk. These emails suggest otherwise. It's amazing what people put in writing when they think no one's paying attention. Her face pales slightly. You wouldn't. I already have. The SEC is very interested in some of these discussions. She sinks into the chair, her perfect posture crumbling. Why are you doing this? Because you all taught me well, I say quietly. Family first, remember? Isn't that what you always said? I'm just making sure the right person is leading this family. A text buzzes on my phone. Ethan, finally. Can we talk, please? Your brother wants to talk, I tell Aunt Margaret, showing her the message. A bit late for that, don't you think? She stands, straightening her designer suit with trembling hands. You'll regret this. The family name means nothing without the success I brought to it, I finish for her. You should go home, Margaret. Mother's going to need your support. The emergency board meeting tomorrow is going to be difficult. After she leaves, I pour myself a glass of water. Not wine, not yet. I need to stay sharp. My laptop screen shows the latest news. Harrison Enterprises in turmoil. Major clients demand answers. Janet appears in my doorway, holding more documents. The vultures are circling, she says, setting them on my desk. 3 more shareholders want to schedule meetings. They're worried about their investments. They should be. I start signing the papers. But not for the reasons they think. She hesitates. The board is considering an emergency session. Your mother's been making calls all morning. Let her, I stand, walking to my window. The city stretches out before me, full of possibilities. She's playing a game she's already lost. My phone buzzes one last time. Marcus. Everything's ready for tomorrow. Are you sure about this? I look at the family photo still sitting on my desk. The last one taken before they decided to replace me. Mother standing proud, Ethan grinning, me smiling politely on the edges. Always on the edges. Yes, I reply. Time to show them what real power looks like. Tomorrow, the Harrison legacy will change forever. And this time, I won't be on the edges. I'll be front and center, exactly where I belong. The Harrison family estate looks different today. The grand drawing room that once intimidated me now seems smaller, less impressive. Like seeing behind a magician's curtain. Once you know the tricks, the magic disappears. I arrive exactly on time, Marcus Chen walking beside me. The family is already gathered, Mother at the head of the antique table, where she's passed so many judgments. Ethan slumped in a corner chair looking decidedly less executive. Aunt Margaret and Uncle Richard flanking Mother like loyal courtiers. Even the cousins are here, summoned for what Mother probably believes will be my surrender. Ready? Marcus asks quietly, his briefcase heavy with documents that will shatter the Harrison dynasty forever. I straighten my spine, smooth my dress, designer, of course. One last performance in this theater of family politics. Always. What is he doing here? Mother demands as we enter, eyeing Marcus with barely concealed hostility. Legal counsel seemed appropriate, I reply smoothly, taking my seat directly opposite her. Given the circumstances. Legal counsel, Ethan scoffs, but his voice wavers. This is a family matter. Exactly, I smile. And family matters should be handled properly, don't you think? With everything documented. Mother's fingers tighten around her crystal wine glass. Lisa, enough of this nonsense. You've made your point. Now let's discuss how we can move forward sensibly. Sensibly, I open my laptop, connecting it to the room's display screen. Like how you sensibly plan to hand over my life's work, or how you sensibly covered up Ethan's failures. We don't need to air dirty laundry, Uncle Richard interjects, ever the peacemaker. Don't we? I start the presentation. Because I think it's time we all saw exactly how dirty this laundry is. The screen fills with documents, years of financial records, emails, board meeting minutes. The family's perfect facade stripped bare in pristine spreadsheets and damning correspondence. First, I begin, as if conducting any other business meeting. Let's discuss Ethan's entrepreneurial adventures. 2 million in losses, all quietly absorbed by the company. Mother, would you like to explain to the tax authorities how you classified those write-offs? Ethan stands abruptly. You can't already have, I cut him off. The IRS received everything this morning. They're particularly interested in those offshore accounts you thought were so clever. Mother's face goes pale. You wouldn't dare. We're your family. Family? I laugh softly. Was I family when you planned my replacement? When you dismissed 12 years of my work as temporary? When you decided the son who couldn't keep a startup afloat deserved everything I built? I am the firstborn, Ethan protests, but his voice is weak. The heir. The heir to what? I stand now, commanding the room just as Mother taught me. A company that was failing before I saved it. A legacy built on my innovations. Patents that belong to me, not the Harrison name. Aunt Margaret rises, hands fluttering nervously. Lisa, darling, surely we can work something out. The family name is nothing without the success I brought to it, I finish for her. Would you like to see the real numbers? From before I took over? I click to the next slide. Look closely, Aunt Margaret. Those red figures? That's what the mighty Harrison name was worth before the daughter you all underestimated stepped in. The room falls silent as years of financial reality scroll across the screen. Mother's careful manipulations, Ethan's costly failures, the truth behind the family's carefully maintained image. Stop this, Mother whispers, but there's no authority in her voice now. Please. Why? I turn to face her fully. Because it hurts to see the truth? To realize that everything you're so desperate to hand over to Ethan only exists because of me? Marcus begins distributing documents. These are the new terms, he announces calmly. I suggest you read them carefully. Mother doesn't even open her folder. Terms for what? Your retirement, I say simply. Effective immediately. You can either step down gracefully with your reputation relatively intact, or, I pause, letting the threat hang in the air. Well, the SEC is very interested in some of your more creative financial decisions. You wouldn't, Uncle Richard gasps. The scandal would destroy the family name, I finish for him. Then I suggest you all start signing. Ethan stands, desperation finally breaking through his entitled facade. Lisa, please, I'm your brother. We can work something out. Like you worked out taking over my company. I meet his eyes steadily. The time for negotiations was before you and Mother decided to steal everything I built. Now, I smile. Now you get to experience what real leadership looks like. I walk to the window, looking out over the manicured gardens where Mother once taught me the importance of appearances. Behind me, I can hear papers rustling, pens scratching, the sound of a dynasty crumbling. You'll regret this, Mother says finally, her voice barely controlled. Someday you'll understand what family really means. I turn back to face them, my family, gathered in their expensive clothes in their expensive house, finally facing the consequences of their actions. I understand exactly what family means, I reply quietly. You taught me well. Family first, remember? I'm just making sure the right person is in charge of this family from now on. The afternoon sun streams through the stained glass windows, casting colored shadows across the room. In this light, I can see every crack in their perfect facade, every tremor in their hands, every moment of realization as they finally understand what they've lost. This isn't just a transfer of power. This is a reckoning. The Harrison Industries boardroom looks different from this end of the table. The morning sun streams through the floor-to-ceiling windows, casting a warm glow over the mahogany surface, where my name placard now sits. Lisa Harrison, Chief Executive Officer. I trace the letters with my fingertip, appreciating the irony. They wanted me to give up the Harrison name in disgrace. Instead, I've given it new meaning. The silence of the empty boardroom feels like a luxury. These brief moments before the chaos begins, before the day launches into full swing. This is my favorite time, when I can sit alone with the company I rebuilt and saved. Twice now. Once from financial ruin, and once from my own family. At precisely 8:30, the board members begin filing in for the first official meeting under my leadership. Their expressions have changed. No more condescending smiles or dismissive glances. Now there's respect in their eyes, maybe even a touch of fear. They've all seen what happened to the last person who underestimated me. Mr. Davidson, once Mother's most loyal supporter, now takes the seat to my right, not hers. The symbolism isn't lost on anyone. The old guard has aligned with the new power, survival instinct at its finest. Good morning, I begin, my voice carrying the perfect blend of authority and calm that Mother spent years trying to master. Thank you all for adjusting your schedules for this early meeting. They nod, these men and women who once looked through me, who approved Mother's plan to replace me without a second thought. Now they hang on my every word, desperate to prove their loyalty. The numbers for this quarter, I continue, pulling up the financial reports on the main screen. As you can see, despite the recent leadership transition, our major clients have not only stayed with us, but have expanded their contracts. Mr. Peterson, sitting on my left, nods approvingly. The market has responded positively to the change in management. Our stock is up 15% since the announcement. I smile, remembering Mother's dire predictions about how I would destroy her precious company. And the new digital integration initiative? Ahead of schedule and under budget, Janet reports from her new position as CFO. The tech blogs are calling it revolutionary. We've had 3 major industry publications request exclusive interviews about the implementation strategy. The accolades continue around the table: record growth in emerging markets, unprecedented client retention rates, innovation benchmarks that exceed industry standards. Everything running smoothly, efficiently, profitably, just as I always knew it could. Once the dead weight was removed. A text lights up my phone. Ethan, again. I glance at it briefly. Please, we need to talk. Mom's not doing well. I silence the phone without responding. Let Mother suffer through her retirement in the small condo she's been reduced to. It's more than she deserves after what the forensic accountants found in those offshore accounts. There is one more item I address the board as the meeting wraps up. The Peterson Group has requested a meeting to discuss their ongoing partnership with Harrison Industries. A murmur runs through the room. Everyone knows the Petersons cut ties after the scandal, after our largest competitor tried to use the family drama to poach them. They're worried, Mr. Davidson observes. Their stock has dropped 30% since breaking ties with us. 40%, I correct him. And yes, they're worried, as they should be. I pull up another slide. Our new competitive analysis initiative launches next week, directly targeting their market share. Janet smirks. Couldn't happen to nicer people. The board meeting concludes, and I remain in my chair, watching as they file out. Each one stops to shake my hand, to offer congratulations on the company's performance. Such a change from 6 months ago, when they barely acknowledged my presence. As the room empties, Marcus lingers behind. Margaret was at the country club last night, he mentions casually. She looked different. I can imagine. The social humiliation has been hard on Aunt Margaret. No more chairwoman positions on prestigious boards. No more leading roles in high society events. Amazing how quickly the elite abandon you when your name becomes synonymous with scandal. How's the restructuring proceeding? Marcus asks. Final phase, I reply, gathering my papers. The Western Division is being completely overhauled. Uncle Richard's department heads are all being replaced. Smart of him to retire early, though I was looking forward to destroying him in court. I shake my head. He's destroyed enough. The board stripped him of his position, his reputation is in tatters, and his perfect nephew? I allow myself a small smile. Well, it's amazing how quickly a man's stock drops when his failures become public knowledge. My phone buzzes again. Mother this time. I read the message out loud. The family name meant something before you ruined it. Marcus raises an eyebrow. Are you going to respond? I stand, smoothing my designer suit. Chanel, because I've learned to appreciate the finer things in life. No need. The quarterly reports speak for themselves. Harrison Industries stock has never been higher, our client base has never been stronger, and our future has never been brighter. I gather my things. The Harrison name means more now than it ever did under Mother's leadership. We walk together toward my corner office, previously Mother's sanctuary, now transformed into a modern command center worthy of a true CEO. The portrait of my grandfather that once dominated the wall has been replaced with a sleek digital display showing real-time company metrics. The antique furniture that prioritized appearance over function has given way to ergonomic, efficient pieces that reflect my approach to business. The designer did an excellent job, Marcus remarks, taking in the changes. The office needed to reflect the new direction, I reply. Form following function, not tradition following blindly. My assistant appears with a freshly updated schedule and a stack of business magazines. The press coverage continues to be overwhelmingly positive, she reports, and your 11 o'clock is here early. I gesture for her to send them in, and a moment later, Cousin James appears at the door. Once Ethan's most loyal supporter, now he stands before me with the same uncertain smile he once reserved for Mother. Lisa, he begins, hands fidgeting slightly. Thank you for seeing me. James, I acknowledge, taking my seat behind the desk. I assume this is about the Eastern Region position? He nods eagerly. I've prepared a detailed proposal for the restructuring, incorporating your vision for the division. I accept the folder he extends, noting the meticulous preparation. James always was the most competent of the family members, even if his loyalty was misplaced. I'll review it carefully, I tell him. But understand that every position is being evaluated on merit, not family connection. Of course, he agrees quickly. That's why I've included my complete achievement metrics from the past 5 years. I want to earn my place. Interesting, I remark, meeting his eyes. That's a new perspective for you. He has the grace to look uncomfortable. Recent events have been educational. I nod, dismissing him with a promise to consider his proposal. As he leaves, I watch him walk past the outer office where Ethan once lounged, discussing yacht purchases while I secured the contracts that paid for them. You know, Marcus muses from the couch where he's been observing the interaction. When you first told me about their plan to replace you, I thought you might be overreacting, taking it too personally. I pause at my desk, looking out over the city skyline. They never saw me as a person. They saw me as a placeholder, a temporary solution until the rightful heir was ready. I turned to face him. That was their mistake. And now? Now they understand what I've always known. You don't need the right background or the right gender to succeed. You just need to be smarter, work harder, and be willing to do what needs to be done. My intercom buzzes. The media relations director needs approval on a press release about our latest acquisition. The VP of Product Development wants to discuss the innovation pipeline. 3 major clients have requested personal meetings to discuss expansion opportunities. This is my life now. Strategic decisions, leadership challenges, the constant forward motion of building something meaningful. Not fighting for recognition in a family that never valued me, but receiving it naturally in a business world that respects results. Before Marcus leaves, he pauses at the door. I almost forgot. Ethan showed up at the downtown office yesterday. Tried to convince the reception staff he was still authorized to access the executive floor. I raise an eyebrow, and? Security escorted him out. He made quite a scene. Marcus smirks. Apparently, he's still telling people he's consulting for the company. I shake my head. Some people never learn. The business papers want interviews, by the way, he adds. They're calling you the queen of corporate warfare. I settle behind my desk, remembering all the times Mother sat here, looking down at me with condescension. Let them wait. I'm not done writing this story yet. As the afternoon unfolds, I move through meetings and decisions with practiced efficiency. Each interaction, each choice, each strategy building upon the foundation I've created. The company responds like a finely tuned instrument, adapting to my vision with a precision that was impossible under the previous leadership. At day's end, I stand alone in my office, watching the city lights blink on across the skyline. The Harrison Industries sign glows prominently among them, a beacon of what's possible when merit replaces entitlement. Mother and Ethan thought they were defined by the Harrison name, that it gave them inherent value and authority. They never understood that names mean nothing without the work, the innovation, the vision to back them up. That's the thing about power. It's not about who was born to it, or who inherited it, or who was chosen to receive it. It's about who knows how to take it, hold it, and make it grow. And I'm just getting started. 1 year later, I stand at the same window where Mother once told me to step aside for Ethan. The view hasn't changed, but everything else has. The Harrison Industries building still dominates the skyline, but now it truly reflects its name, my name, earned rather than inherited. The morning light catches on the new signage being installed on the East Wing. Harrison Innovation Center, the physical manifestation of the company's evolution under my leadership. Construction crews move with practiced efficiency, the expansion progressing exactly on schedule. Just like everything else in my carefully orchestrated world. Forbes magazine sits open on my desk, my face on the cover. The Rise of Lisa Harrison, How One Woman Transformed a Family Empire. The article is kinder than my family deserves, but that's by design. I've learned that true power isn't about destruction. It's about reconstruction. The 8-page feature details the company's remarkable growth, the industry-leading initiatives, the corporate culture transformation. Not a single mention of the family drama that preceded it all. My choice, not theirs. Janet enters without knocking. She's earned that right. She carries a tablet displaying the morning's reports, her expression satisfied. The Asia-Pacific numbers just came in, she announces. We've exceeded projections by 30%. I don't turn from the window. And the European expansion. Moving ahead of schedule. The London office opens next month, and Berlin has already secured their first major client. She scrolls through more figures. The transition team reports everything is running smoothly. A slight smile crosses my lips. Mother always said Europe was beyond our reach. She said a lot of things, Janet reminds me, setting the tablet on my desk, none of which turned out to be true. I turn from the window, taking in the office that has become the command center of a global operation. What about the Martinez acquisition? Final paperwork being processed today. Their CEO seemed almost relieved when signing over control. He should be, I observe. We're saving his company from the same fate ours nearly suffered, death by outdated thinking. Janet hesitates, her expression shifting. Speaking of your mother, she's been seen at Morton's Club lately, trying to rebuild her social connections. I finally turn from the window. And how's that working out for her? Not well. Turns out people aren't eager to associate with someone under SEC investigation. Janet's tone carries a hint of satisfaction. The charity circuit has essentially blacklisted her. Even her closest friends have stopped returning her calls. I sit down, picking up the latest quarterly report. The numbers tell their own story, stock prices at an all-time high, market share growing, innovation leading the industry. Everything I always knew was possible, once the right person was in charge. Ethan made another attempt at a startup, Janet continues, settling into the chair opposite me. Some kind of cryptocurrency platform. Let me guess, he's looking for investors. She corrects. No one will touch him now. Not after what happened to his last venture capital group. She pulls up an article on her tablet. They're still recovering from the 7-figure loss he led them into. I scan the piece, noting the familiar pattern, Ethan's grandiose promises, lack of actual business plan, inevitable collapse. Some people never learn. That's not all, Janet adds. He's been telling people he's consulting for us. Legal sent him a cease and desist letter yesterday. I shake my head, almost pitying him. Almost. And Uncle Richard? Retired to Florida. Apparently, he's written a memoir. Janet's expression turns skeptical. Though I doubt anyone will publish it, given the non-disclosure agreements he signed during the settlement. My phone buzzes. A text from Aunt Margaret. A year later, and they still haven't learned. Saw your magazine cover, it reads. Your mother raised you better than this. There's still time to make things right. I show the message to Janet, who laughs. Should I remind her about the charity board elections? Every single organization voted to remove the Harrison name from their donor walls. No need. I type back a simple response. Check tomorrow's stock prices. Because tomorrow Harrison Industries will announce its biggest acquisition yet, the very company that rejected Ethan's latest pitch. The ultimate proof that competence outlasts connections. My assistant enters with afternoon reports and a sleek leather portfolio. The presentation for the shareholders' meeting is ready for your review, she says. And the Wilson Group confirmed for next Tuesday. They're eager to discuss the merger possibilities. The Wilson Group, one of the oldest family businesses in the country, once a close ally of Mother's social circle. Now they're approaching me as equals, seeking partnership, rather than patronizing with empty social pleasantries. The Wall Street Journal is online too about the Innovation Awards, my assistant continues. And the London office needs to confirm your schedule for next month. I nod, already shifting into CEO mode. This is my world now. Global strategies, market expansions, real leadership. Everything Mother claimed I couldn't handle, couldn't understand, couldn't master. Oh, and Miss Harrison, my assistant adds, her expression carefully neutral. Your mother is in the lobby. She's asking to see you. Janet straightens in her chair. Want me to have security remove her? I consider it for a moment. Margaret Harrison, the woman who once looked down on me from this very office, now reduced to begging for an audience. It would be easy to dismiss her, to let her feel the same rejection she once dealt so freely. No, I decide after a moment. Send her up. Janet raises an eyebrow. You sure? Absolutely. Some things need to be seen firsthand to be fully understood. I straighten the Forbes magazine on my desk, ensuring the cover is perfectly visible. Give us 15 minutes, then interrupt with an urgent call. 5 minutes later, Mother enters my office. She's aged a decade in 1 year. Her designer clothes still perfect. Her posture still rigid. But her eyes have lost their certainty. The carefully constructed armor of society's grande dame has cracked, revealing the vulnerability she always despised in others. Lisa, she manages, her voice lacking its former authority. Mother, I gesture to a chair. Please, sit. She does, looking uncomfortable in the visitor's position. Her gaze darts around the office, taking in the changes, the modern artwork replacing family portraits, the sleek technology replacing antique furnishings, the complete erasure of her carefully curated aesthetic. The European expansion, she starts, attempting to regain some semblance of control through conversation. It's happening, isn't it? Along with Asia Pacific, I confirm. The very markets you said we could never enter. I was wrong, she says quietly, and for a moment, I almost believe her humility about many things. Yes, I agree. You were... Her eyes fall on the Forbes cover, lingering on my photo. The image captures exactly what I wanted. Not a daughter desperate for approval, but a leader confident in her vision. Not a woman defined by family connections, but an executive defined by achievements. She clutches her handbag tighter. The family name has never been stronger. I cut her off. The difference is, now it's associated with actual achievement instead of just inheritance. And Ethan is learning what the real world looks like when you have to earn your place in it. I lean back slightly, studying her, though I doubt the lesson is sinking in. She shifts in her chair, the carefully rehearsed speech she undoubtedly prepared now forgotten. The board meeting yesterday, she says instead. I heard it went well. Record profits, I confirm. Expanded market share. Successful acquisitions. I pause, letting the contrast hang in the air between us. Everything the company could have been years ago, if vision had triumphed over tradition. Mother looks down at her hands, at the diamond ring that once symbolized her status in a world that no longer welcomes her. Your father would have been proud. No, I correct her gently. Father would have been vindicated. He always believed in my abilities. You were the one who saw them as temporary. She has no response to this truth. Instead, she stands, her hands shaking slightly. You've won, you know, completely. The board, the company, the respect, it's all yours now. I smile, thinking of all the times she told me winning wasn't ladylike. No, Mother, I didn't win. I earned. There's a difference. Right on cue, my assistant appears at the door. Ms. Harrison, I apologize for the interruption, but the Tokyo team is on the line. It's urgent. I nod, the dismissal clear. Thank you for stopping by, Mother. She hesitates, something like regret flickering across her face. Then she straightens her shoulders, a pale imitation of her former imperious posture, and walks out without another word. After she leaves, I watch through the floor-to-ceiling windows as she crosses the plaza below. Her shoulders are bent now, her stride less confident. The queen dethroned by the daughter she never thought could rule. How was it? Janet asks, returning after Mother's departure. Predictable, I reply. She's still trying to rewrite history rather than acknowledge it. My phone buzzes again, the London office reminder. I have an empire to run, after all, one that's growing stronger every day under my leadership. The afternoon unfolds with practiced efficiency. Strategic meetings, expansion discussions, the constant forward momentum that defines Harrison Industries now. Each decision building on the last, creating something stronger than family legacy ever could. A company defined by merit rather than birthright. As the sun begins to set, casting long shadows across the city, I pause at the window again. The construction crew has finished installing the Innovation Center sign, its letters gleaming against the darkening sky. You know what the irony is? That I tell Janet as she brings in the final reports for the day. All they had to do was see me, value me, treat me as an equal. Instead, they taught me how to take everything from them. I turned to face the city, my city now. And I learned that lesson very, very well. The skyline glitters as night falls, lights blinking on across the urban landscape. The Harrison Industries building stands prominent among them, its windows illuminated by the team still working inside. People who respect leadership based on competence, not family connection. People who understand that true value comes from contribution, not inheritance. Tomorrow, I'll announce the new acquisition. Next month, I'll open the London office. By year's end, Harrison Industries will be unrecognizable from the company my mother ran. And that's exactly how it should be, because they wanted someone worthy of the Harrison name. They just never expected her to be me.